Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 3 of Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So here we have Senpai just doing his thing. You know, naturally, we can only expect that this won't last for very long. Case in point. You know, she's still trying to push this angle of being a model for him. And I feel like she's going to really find some way to twist the knife here. You know, if it's not just the school uniform, maybe she could wear something else. I mean, she raises a good point. You know, you can't just draw objects, you have to draw life too if you want to be a good artist. Man, the director was really playing silly buggers here because she's obviously not just flashing the goods, so to speak. Oh dear. So naturally, she's likely not going to drop this topic, you know. Senpai's gonna have to draw something living, and it might as well be her. Oh dear, you know, this really does seem to be like a common thing where everybody gets caught out in the rain, and naturally, the clothes they have to wear for school always become absolutely translucent. You know, I feel like that might be a bit of an oversight. Granted, you know, their clothes aren't supposed to get wet, but you know, I think I've seen this trope play out a couple times before, getting caught in the rain and sort of taking shelter at a bus stop or a bench or something like that. Naturally, things start to get tense when the characters in question realize they are sort of together and wearing somewhat transparent clothing due to all the rain. Yep, Nagatoro's going for it. You know, you can't look at me. My clothes are all transparent. So I guess the big difference here is that she's really playing it up, you know, to try and tease Senpai and pick on him a little bit. Man, poor guy. The two of them are sitting out here soaked to the bone from the rain, and you know, she can't even just, like, let him be. She has to tease him a little bit. So this right here is the product of what Nagataro's been teasing about, don't look at me, ooh, ha 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 ha, but it turns out she actually means it this time. See, this is why you shouldn't play around and bluff. Because now that he's called her bluff, she has egg on her face. Of course, at the same time, he backed down right away. So, I don't know, this really just gives her more ammunition to tease him with. For someone who doesn't want to be seen in her transparent clothing, she sure is getting awfully close to him. And at the same time, it feels like they're going through, a monsoon or something with all the wind and rain. I feel like maybe sitting out here, even if there is shelter, is somewhat misguided. They'd probably be better off getting to somewhere more concrete. Uh-oh. I'm sensing trouble here. They seem to both be going back to Senpai's house, potentially, and I feel like that's going to lead to all sorts of shenanigans, like, ooh, I'm in Senpai's room. Isn't that exciting? And you know what? It is kind of exciting, but at the same time, I feel like she's just going to use it as an excuse to tease him more. There's no real good outcome here, objectively speaking. Alright, so you know what? Nagatoro has actually decided they should go to her place instead, but I hardly think that it's much better. Oh dear. Understandably, Senpai would assume Nagatoro's parents are just like her, but at the same time, they're adults. Surely they can't be like that. Man, that really is like a hellish version of what life could be like. Fortunately, it's just sort of his feverish imaginings rather than reality. Uh-oh. So, they have the place themselves, so naturally Nagataro's gonna swing this to her advantage for sure. If only to tease him a bit more, like, oh no, I'm alone with somebody who's a closeted pervert. Boy, I hope nothing bad happens. Now, all things considered, Nagataro's being surprisingly hospitable. I feel like this would be a ripe opportunity for her to tease him, but she's just sort of being a good host. Of course, it doesn't help that Senpai is actually being a creep about it. He could just sort of behave normally. Man, living that down's gonna be hard. Yep, so here we have it. Nagataro's calling him out. First time in a girl's bedroom, huh? Naturally, of course it is, so this is a area that's ripe for teasing. Oh boy. Well, I feel like Nagatoro's being a bit dense right here. You know, he says study and stuff, but what he really means is study anatomy, regardless of whether or not you have a test coming up. Oh dear. Ooh. The old, suggestive fighting game gambit. Man, I feel like, this might be just as bad. You know, hey, let's play this fighting game. Surely nothing bad could happen here. So that's an interesting little jab here. You know, they have this video game in common, so Nagatoro hopes that perhaps he'll stop being so awkward since they have, I guess, a common hobby. You know, hobby might be too much of an exaggeration for it, but, you know, they both like the game. So unfortunately, this is sort of like the one area where Senpai has an advantage. I feel like if he were smart, he would just sort of tease Nagatoro about this, but I mean, that's sort of what he's thinking, but I don't think he's gonna go about it in perhaps the way he should. You know, he's just kind of being a little too serious about it. I think you can beat her in the game, but you also have to tease her and rib her a little bit. Oh, that's playing dirty. You know, I guess it makes sense that, given how she reacted to losing the first round, she wouldn't be so keen on losing again, to the point where she'd even be willing to cheat. I feel like this is escalating the arms race in a way that nobody is really comfortable with yet. I mean, on the other hand, it does look like they're both actually having fun. You know, I'm wondering how long they continued playing after the storm passed. I feel like time sort of slipped away from them a little bit. Uh-oh. So already things are getting tense. Senpai's eating in the cafeteria. I remember these days struggling to find a seat. Those were not good times. The only way you get out of this alive is if you have friends who sort of save you a seat. Unfortunately, Nagatoro and her friends have saved him a seat. So we're sort of, I guess, going to be introduced to them formally. But at the same time, you know, Senpai's sort of walking into the lion's den here. Because if Nagatoro's friends are anything like her, he's in for a whole lot of unpleasant interaction. I mean, at this point, Nagatoro's sort of eased off a little bit. You know, it's more banter on her part now. But Nagatoro's friends are, you know, they have no such compunction. So this is actually quite interesting. Nagatoro says that Senpai's her boyfriend. And I do believe one of these girls was trying to set up Nagatoro with a couple guys earlier. Oh, no. Nagatoro's friend meant that as a joke, but Nagatoro's not going to take that lying down. That was a very evocative look on her face. Oh dear. Yeah, so, even though she says rather mean things about him, she's strangely protective. So, maybe that boyfriend comment was a little closer to the truth than anyone would like to admit. Oh man, Nagatoro's really not playing around here. Senpai belongs to her, and her friends would do well to remember that. Man, like, the music dropped out and everything. That is unsettling in a weird kind of way. Alright, so this is a nice little change here. When other people pick on Senpai, Nagatoro is the first to defend him. And I mean, her friend's not wrong. Senpai is kinda pathetic. He could do with not being so pathetic. But at the same time, like, Nagatoro, it's her job to pick on him in a reasonable way. Her friend is overstepping boundaries. Oh, Senpai, what are you doing? Oh, boy. Big declaration in the middle of the cafeteria, that's embarrassing. Didn't even finish it. I mean, I can't say I blame him, honestly. Wow, I mean, that kinda hurts in a weird sort of way. He loudly declares they are not dating, and then refuses to clarify further. Alright, I feel like there's gonna be a training montage here. Nagatoro's trying to get him to learn how to banter and hit back, proverbially. So, I don't know. This might be an interesting development. So, on the one hand, Senpai would do good to learn how to talk back to people. But at the same time, he's more of a straight man kind of character, so I feel like it's not really in his nature to do anything. I feel like the best thing he could probably do is just be more earnest. I think Senpai's taken the wrong idea here. Nagatoro is trying to help him in her own misguided way, so maybe just sort of like hitting back full force at her is probably not the right approach. Alright, this is about to go south really quickly here. You know, I know Nagatoro's trying to help him, but she's really just sort of ribbing him. Although at the same time, you know, given what we know about him, he's sort of adapted his whole life to trying to just ignore things. So there we go. There's something genuine here. You know, Nagatoro's actually apologizing. She realizes she did go too far. Oh, man. Old habits die hard. She can't help herself. Uh-oh. Man, could have seen that coming a mile away. Talk about getting accidentally lucky. I mean, I guess it worked in that it shut her up, but, probably not the way she intended. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.